Good evening. I'm excited to welcome you to this evening's concert brought to you by the Idaho State Civic Symphony. I'm Jordan Herget, President and CEO of Portneuf Medical Center. As an advocate for the arts in our communities, Portneuf is proud to once again be the season sponsor of the Symphony. Together we advocate and look to a future filled with music and the arts. Enjoy the concert.
Good evening, and welcome to tonight's broadcast. Tonight, we celebrate collaborations as we revisit favorite pieces from past concerts. Tonight, we will get to visit with these collaborative artists and hear their perspective on working together with the Idaho State Civic Symphony to bring the very best music to Southeast Idaho. Thank you for joining us. Good evening. Tonight I am joined with Dr. Tom Hassenflug, who is not only the Idaho State Civic Symphony's principal timpanist, but also the department chair for the ISU music department, as well as, and some people may not realize this, our resident composer. And so thank you very much for joining me tonight and talking with me about your piece, A Silent City of Rocks. And so to kind of begin, I know that everybody really likes watching you play timpani on stage. We get a lot of feedback that they enjoy watching you, and you're a fan favorite. How long have you been playing percussion, and what was your inspiration to become a percussionist? What was the drive behind that?
You bet. So honestly, it was marching band. I started in high school. I'm a violinist in terms of my background. And then I just kind of made the switch in high school because I just basically wanted to take the bus rides and be on the bus with all the kids. And then I got serious about it. I started as a mallet player, picked up percussion, went to college, started focusing on that and not so much on string instruments. And then got the degrees and pursued from there. Yeah. And it's one of those kind of like fine lines, you don't want to draw too much attention to yourself when you're in the back, supposedly just, counting to four, everybody, and I kind of self-conduct myself through, I do that stuff all the time. I guess people like to watch it, but I should probably tone it down because it's usually somebody else's solo during those times. So. Yeah.
Well, they love it. And so far it hasn't taken away from anybody else's solo at this point, but at least everybody knows that you enjoy what you do back there, and it's a lot of fun to watch. So then with you becoming this percussionist, you transitioning from string player to percussion, when did you decide composition was going to be in your bag of tricks?
I pretty much always did that through undergrad because my master's is actually in comp, my doctorate's in percussion. So I did dual degrees pretty much most of the way through. And because I don't, I play fine, but I don't outplay the best players in the world. I don't outwrite the best writers in the world. So for me, it was always just going to be one of those things where I was going to get the kind of job where like a dual responsibility and a dual focus was part of the description. So this institution suits my skill set because I can do both things.
So did you always want to teach at a university then? It sounds like that's kind of the goal.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what I wanted to do as a high school student, but I think once I went through the program, I don't know that I thought I could as an undergrad. And then I just got some job in, auto rental. And then when I went back to school, that's when I said, all right, this is what I'm going to stick with. And I mean, you know how it goes. You do visiting assistant, this and that, 1-year appointments, and then, you finally get the gig. So for a while, but yeah, it took a bit of hopping around before I got the job. And
so how long have you been at ISU then?
2003, 18 years.
Yeah. As we turn our attention to the piece that we played, this was back in now spring of 2018 now, I believe. I believe it has been a solid, or was it? No, it was 2019, spring of 2019. Because 2020 hit and it just killed the rest of our season last year. But we were able to perform A Silent City of Rocks in our Celebration of Idaho season. And that was kind of the culmination of that, really. It was a wonderful opportunity to hear your piece. Can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind it? Obviously, it's a national park that we have here in Idaho. And can you tell our audience about your love of national parks and how that influenced your composition?
Sure, and that's true. It's true. It's really one of my favorite things is the parklands out in this region in particular. It's one of the great things about living out this way. And I always thought that City of Rocks was one of the more unique spots because it flies under the radar for most. It's like technically it's a national reserve. It's one of the, I think there's only 3 or 4 national reserves in the country, and that changes some of the laws about land use. But it's a shared partnership with the state of Idaho, with nearby Castle Rocks, and it was the piece. You know, some people have heard me tell the story, and for those of you who are watching who don't know, it's basically focused on the. It's more about the California Trail. It's about the intersection of the California Trail with the park itself, and the trail goes right through the park and then just kind of curves off to the, I guess that would be west southwest at that point. It's kind of funny shaped, and then the park kind of continues north, but crosses over for about a third of the southern part of the park. And I was interested in the emigrant signatures on the rocks and the formations themselves, which are really neat if people haven't seen those before. And if you've been down to Moab, you get all the big red sandstone sculptures, but these are granite up here in Idaho, and the Alamo Pluton, which is sort of it's hard to describe, but it has to do with the erosion and the they're almost like water holes, sort of pock marks in the rock, as it'd be a good way to describe it. And so I just thought it was a neat place, and I figured there wouldn't have been too many other competing pieces like Yellowstone or Zion or something like that, where I'm too late to the game. So I thought I'd take this one myself. And then that it started the year before in 2018 as a band piece. And you were there and you heard it. And then we started talking. I was like, well, I'm going to finish the orchestra piece. And then you said, I might need it. And I said, that'd be great. And so it turns out we did that, and that was fantastic. And the orchestra piece was rewritten to be that. And so it's just a different version of what effectively is the same of the original version. It's kind of a different retelling of it. More strings, fewer saxophones, basically. It's fun. I just wanted to, I'm in this esoteric kind of mode in and out, and I wanted to just do something tonal that people could understand, and not have to, I don't know, there's some thought that goes into it, but not have to really hurt your head to listen to it and understand all the symbolism. Pardon me. And say again.
Accessible.
Yeah, a little more accessible than I wrote a concerto a couple of years previous, and that was it was a good piece, but it was a little harder to understand tonally and stuff like that. And I just wanted something that was just a little more melodic. And so I did this one anyway. And it turned out to be something that I actually really turned out to be something that I am glad that I did. I just kind of liked listening to it. I liked listening to others play it. We did a slideshow, of course, that went along with it. And when I say we, that's me and the guy who's the superintendent down at the park, and his name's Wallace Keck, and he runs the show down there, and he was really eager to partner. And as you know, back in 2019, he brought his crew up, and they had displays out in the lobby and some storytelling, and it was a nice way to do a real Idaho thing, I thought. And they really brought a lot to that. And they brought a lot of photography, and so that's why I didn't play on this gig. When you cut this video into the actual performance, you won't see me on stage because I'm in the back of the house running the slideshow. I'm not quite sure what you're going to do about this here for the rebroadcast, but that's effectively what happened in the live version. Is that I wasn't on stage. I was back of house doing that. So
Yeah, it was a really wonderful collaboration, not just with you, but also with Wallace and the Park Service. And they were so generous with what they brought with them, with the wagon and their photography. And with this rebroadcast, what everybody's going to see is the cameras from the concert hall. So they will see the slideshow that went along with the piece as well. So it was a really remarkable evening. I think that it was, aside from educational, I think it was beautifully done and a wonderful piece to play. And I thought that it really brought a lot to our season and a wonderful conclusion to the season that we had. So just thank you very much for sharing your skills and abilities with the symphony on multiple levels. And thank you again for being with me tonight.
You bet. It's nice to, this is as I told you half an hour ago, this is the first time I've been in this building in a year. My background is not green screened. This is actually where I'm sitting. So It's been a long time since I've sat right here. Feels like yesterday, but it really wasn't yesterday. It was a year ago. But I'll be back next week. So now
we'll be back next week. For our viewers, we actually just got done with our rehearsal tonight, and we're in two separate parts of the building to do this interview. But it was great to have you back on stage tonight as well for our April concert.
It was good to be here. It was good to be here.
Thank you again.
All righty.
Have a great night.
You have a good night too.
Hello, everybody. I am joined today with Dr. Thomas Heuser, who is the Artistic Director and Conductor of the Idaho Falls Symphony in Idaho Falls, as well as the San Juan Symphony in Durango, Colorado. And we are here today to chat about our collaboration that we did between the Idaho Falls Symphony and the Idaho State Civic Symphony way back now in the spring of 2018, I want to say.
I think so, yeah.
Yes, well, welcome. And thank you so much for joining me today and taking the time out of your very busy schedule to talk with me very briefly today about what that was like. So before we get into that collaboration, though, I would love to ask you, how has the symphony world been treating you during COVID, and what are some of the things that you've been doing?
Well, as we were just talking about, Julie, thank you so much for having me. This is a great chance to catch up. It's been a lot of Zoom. It's been a lot of virtual broadcasts of either recordings, past concerts, individual musician projects, all these different things. And, you know, not all bad. There are some silver linings. We are, you know, maybe reaching more audiences that are further afield. We have, you know, actually introduced new people to our orchestras, which is great, but we really miss the experience of the live concert and miss seeing our audiences particularly. So there's good and bad, but we're making do.
Yeah, I think that's really wonderful that you've been able to move your symphonies forward in one direction. We've also done the same thing with the Civic Symphony. And like you were saying, it's been really interesting because the silver lining has really been that we've reached people that we have not been able to within our own concert hall, obviously. So to be able to know that we've been heard around the world now at this point has been kind of a neat silver lining to a year of very hard work. And by musicians and conductors alike. But we are also very lucky because so many symphonies closed down and weren't able to move forward at all. So I feel like you and I are two very lucky people to be able to continue the work in this time, but certainly excited to be able to bring the audiences back, hopefully as soon as next season, but we will keep our fingers crossed for that. Exactly. So one of the whole purpose of this concert, as we were talking about pre-recorded concerts, this is a pre-recorded concert that we're going to put out on the 19th of March. And I always think about collaborations and some of the favorite things I've done to collaborate. And one of the concerts that comes to my mind is our collaborative concert that we put together. And I wanted to just talk to you. I know from my standpoint, the amount of work that had to go into that, I thought we would share with our viewers a little bit of some of the logistics that had to go into bringing two symphonies together on the stage. And what do you remember about that? What's one of your favorite memories from that time?
Are we calling them favorite memories? Okay, well then we
am.
will. It was, as you mentioned, a huge logistical project. The concert was called Double Orchestra, and we made every attempt to combine the two groups, the Idaho State Civic Symphony and the Idaho Falls Symphony together. And that meant, of course, twice as many seats on stage. This was pre-COVID, of course. Now it sounds impossible, and it is impossible. We had this complicated setup of who would be the principal musicians for which concert. So we had to figure out with our personnel what made the most sense there, assign all of the solos appropriately, etc. So that was quite a bit of work. The getting people to and from Idaho Falls and Pocatello, we are neighbors. But of course, as was expected, there was traffic, there were traffic jams. There were, as I recall, coming to Pocatello, I think the Idaho Falls Symphony bus got there right at the downbeat or something, so we had to postpone a little bit. There was no shortage of excitement on that concert. And you know, the other big logistical thing, and I'll let you speak to this, was performing the 1812 Overture, how to create the cannon shots. This was fun.
Exactly. So I think that, you know, for tonight's concert, I did choose the 1812 to feature from that concert. And like you said, it is no shortness of drama that was brought about by trying to combine these two orchestras. I will never forget getting the phone call saying Idaho Falls is stuck on the highway. There's been an accident. They're having to divert around, and us hoping very, and praying that you would be able to get there quickly and safely, and which you did. And for the 1812, of course, this is an iconic piece, right? Everybody knows it, everyone recognizes it. I think probably next to Beethoven's Fifth, it's probably one of the most recognizable pieces for everyone, namely because of the cannons. And, you know, everybody had their ideas of how we were going to create these cannons. I even had people email me like, we could do paper bags, and we could, you know, exploding paper bags in the back. But instead we went with actual like chemical cannons in the back that were exploded in the back. And we did protect the musicians' safety with their earplugs and with the barriers. But it was a really kind of a neat, and I believe up in Idaho Falls, there was, at least during one of our rehearsals, they'd overpacked it, and it really let out quite the boom, if I recall.
We almost, yes, as I recall, we almost blew the lid off the place. Yeah, overpacked the chemicals. This was engaging all of our friends in the nearby chemistry department. And yeah, it really, you know, this is just exciting stuff, because everybody, when you have this piece on the stage, you really want to do something special with the pyrotechnics, as it were. And I mean, as you said, we took the safety precautions, and it came off really well. And Julie, as I'm hearing you say this, I'm remembering that one of the things that I really loved about this collaboration was sharing the podium. You know, the fact that conductors are so often, we are sort of insular creatures, but in this case, we had a chance to collaborate, and we conducted different repertoire in each community. And so the concert was repeated both in Pocatello and Idaho Falls. And it was just a nice opportunity to share the podium, collaborate on the music making. And that, I think that stands out to me as my favorite memory of the whole thing.
You know, it's funny, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. As you said, we're somewhat solitary creatures, and we do a lot of our work on our own, except for the times when we actually get to be in front of our groups. And so to be able to share that podium with you, and to be able to come up with repertoire together, and to discuss what we wanted and how we wanted those really to come together mutually, was a really great experience for me, and one that I carry with me. And it's a friendship that I'm glad that we were able to develop through that time, and one I'm glad we can carry forward. So thank you so much for your time today. It is a delight to revisit some of these wonderful opportunities we've had to collaborate, and I look forward to the possibility in years to come, after COVID and everything else, that maybe we can share the stage together once again. And thank you again for your time today, and I wish you the very best of luck with the rest of your seasons.
Well, thank you, and best of luck to all of you at the Idaho State Civic Symphony. I'll just echo that we look forward to collaborating again in the future for sure. And I know I speak on behalf of the entire organization in Idaho Falls. So thank you and have a great show.
Thank you. Hi, I am joined today with Kobe Watkins, who is a drummer, composer, and band leader of the Kobe Watkins Group TET. And I am just so glad to be joined with you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here and to talk with me about your piece, Catch This, which we are including on our March 19th concert, which will air at 7:30. And I just am wondering, Kobe, how are things going for you during this as an active and professional musician during the time of COVID? What can you tell our viewers about supporting musicians during this time?
Oh man, well first, hello to you, Julie. How are you? Hopefully you're good. And then everybody, hope everybody's fine during this crazy time. And man, being a musician right in the middle of this and at the beginning of this has been it's hard and it's interesting because I tell students they have to keep playing. So the students that are listening, and whether it's your student of whatever instrument you are young enough to survive this. You are strong enough to survive this. You are bold enough to endure this, and so am I. It's just a little different for us at my age. It becomes more difficult because as things begin to open back up. Um, it's not the same monetary reinforcement that the older musicians get to have, so it's easier for us to just kind of get out of the way for you guys to kind of make your way and be the best. And so my job is to pass as much as this down to you as I can. So during this time I teach, make sure that you guys get the information in a way that's helpful, and also not to take from any of the things that you're learning, but to add and to help you grow and to continue your process so that you're not put in the same predicament like this great art form, it being taken away from you in a sense, the way it's been taken away from us, to stop traveling and to stop doing our concerts that we love, that you're about to see, like this next song. You're about to see this next song, and we were in a concert together and hanging out. And so we don't ever want this to kind of happen to you guys.
No.
So you have to keep playing. You have to have your concerts, and you have to be persistent.
Yeah,
Persistence.
I agree. I mean, I think you have a lot of wisdom there in the sense that I also encourage my students that, and remind them that the work that they're doing is imperative and really, really important. And that even though it may feel completely foreign right now, and empty in a lot of ways because there are no concert halls and the connection that we create through music feels very cut off, that work needs to be done and it needs to be carried forward, because this is what we rely on, especially in times like this. And so
Hmm.
it's a unique and a somewhat ironic time that the people we rely on for our mental and emotional health through difficulties are the ones out of work.
Hmm.
And that's tough, but I think it's so wonderful what you said as far as, making sure that this next generation knows that they can survive this, and our generation can as well, and we will continue
Hmm.
to forge ahead and create together, but that they also feel like they have a space to do that,
Hmm.
and that it's important to do so. So that I think that's really wonderful. So what was your inspiration for Catch This? And yeah,
Oh my goodness. I literally, so when John Armstrong and I got together, we were actually walking out on a track field. We were doing something in Utah. We were in So on our break, we took a break and then we started walking around this track. And so I'm like, man, we got to start getting ready for blah. And here's some of the things that I've been thinking about. And I just started singing them um, out loud. He's like, wait, wait. You're talking about like that sounds like what we should be record. We need to. So we started recording this, verbally recording this on my phone. And that was how we started writing the music for this. So then when we were able to go back home, I was able to like either like kind of put it in a band camp type thing and send it to him, because then he was then like the scribe, and then also he was able to add colors and add more of the the meat and potatoes of it too. So it was like, I had some openings and thoughts of and some colors that I wanted, and then he had some other things, and he had an expertise that I didn't have, which was being able to sit at finale and like write it, like put it to life. So I
Right.
knew what to do with finale, but like I've been on finale since '95, literally, but never wrote for an orchestra from finale. So he was able to do it in such a way that I could not, which is so helpful because no one starts a company by themselves. Okay. So
Right.
we were we were talking about it, and he goes, well, how would you start that? And I sat there for a second, and I literally sang that. And this wasn't the same day, this was a different day, but I literally sang that. Oh, I forgot, we spent some time, like I was sitting in my garage composing and he was composing. We were like, wow, there was a lot of joy. Actually, this was before, was it Zoom? What was it? Skype. We were on Skype and we were going, I mean, literally weekly for about 2 months
Yeah.
on Skype doing this. And so I just sang that beginning. Da, 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 ba, 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 ba. But it was I was like, it has to have like this aria, like this feeling that it just grows and it grows. And so then I was able to sing that first line, and then I was like, oh, then the next part behind that. And so I started not singing because we're can't sing in layers, but I was like, this should go next. And then this instrument can say this and this can say that. And then so he was able to take literally, I think, 8 measures of something that I sung with 4 or 5 different instruments, and he was able to stretch that into that
Yeah.
opening. That opening is like, when I heard it, I was just like, man, I don't remember that. And then I go back and I look at or listen to something that I had, and I was like, oh, right. I say, he was like, this is exactly what you sang. I was like, right.
You're right. I did.
But it had been so removed from that, and he was, because he comes from someplace different than I'm from, and I it's thoroughly enjoyable to have that those dissonance,
Yeah.
and in a dissonance in a great way, that we were able to bring that to light, bring that music to light, and make it from this lyrical to this rhythmic. And so you have this lyrical thing that starts, and then it goes into this rhythmic um gesture that's really from Chicago. It's like, this feeling, this whole thing was a dance, that Latin dance, feeling from the Latin clubs of my time when I would go there and hang out with friends of mine after class, or you're like, well, there was a time when like 2 o'clock in the morning was actually pretty safe. You could go hang out and then have like tacos and refried beans. And it was like, it was really, this was in Chicago. And so we had a good time. So we would go and they would play and I would try and dance, but it was those rhythms, or and that scene that set up that catch this. So I don't know where I got this. I think the name came from just being on the road and just
Yeah.
like um thinking about things being out on the road. But catch this was like a catchy phrase at the time also. So
Well, having you and John and Justin and Ryan and Aaron on stage with us
the cats.
was amazing, and the energy flowed through that concert hall so beautifully. And I'm so thankful to you for being willing to come and collaborate with us at the symphony. It's a fantastic memory that
Thank
I
you.
hold very, very dear to myself. That is, this is an important concert, I think, for us as a symphony to be able to collaborate with a genre that you don't normally see, and with such amazing musicians to be able
Yeah,
to grow and develop with. And so thank you so much for your willingness to do it
you're
then.
welcome.
Thank you for joining me today. And I hope that if you have a moment, you can tune in and see at the concert. But thank you so much for everything. And you have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
See you, everyone.
thank you for joining us for this evening's performance. I'm Julie Sorensen, and on behalf of the Idaho State Civic Symphony, we look forward to seeing you at our next concert. Thank you.